Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Like many of you, we've been watching with amazement and some real alarm as leaders of the Democratic Party day after day attack the country they say they want to govern. It is remarkable, and it's a very new development, by the way. Just a few years ago, even the most liberal Democrats in Congress felt obligated to say patriotic things about America. They may not have felt it, but they said it, and that matters. Now, it's routine to hear Democratic presidential candidates question the basic legitimacy of the United States. Even supposed moderates like Joe Biden join in. And that should worry you. No country can survive being ruled by people who hate it. And we deserve better. For all of our country's flaws, this is still the best place in the world. Most immigrants know that, and that's why they come here. It's also why we've always been glad to have them here. But now, there are signs that some people who move here from abroad don't like this country at all. As we told you last night, one of those people now serves in our Congress. In fact, the United States is the kindest, most open-minded place on the planet. The U.S. has done more for other people and received less in return than any nation in history by far. Americans like to help. It makes us feel good. Some of our deepest satisfaction as a country comes from watching penniless immigrants arrive on our shores, buy into our values, and thrive. We call it the American dream, and nothing makes us prouder. It was in that spirit that in 1992, the United States welcomed 10-year-old Ilhan Omar and her family. Omar was born in Somalia, one of the world's poorest countries. It was then ruled by a Marxist military dictatorship. When Omar was 6, she and her parents and their 6 siblings fled a worsening civil war and wound up in a refugee camp in Kenya. They spent 4 years there until America offered the family asylum here and let them settle in Minneapolis. Omar's father drove a taxi at first, then got a job at the post office, working for the government. Omar, meanwhile, grew up free in the world's richest country with all the bounty that implies. She became a citizen, then went to work at a state university. A few years later, she became a member of Congress, elected by voters who were proud to see an immigrant succeed. Omar is now, at the age of only 36, one of the most powerful women in America. It's an amazing story, really. Only in this country could it have happened. Ilhan Omar has an awful lot to be grateful for. But she isn't grateful. Not at all. After everything America has done for Omar and for her family, she hates this country more than ever. In a recent piece in the Washington Post, the reporter put it this way, quote, "In Omar's version, America isn't the big-hearted country that saved her from a brutal war and a bleak refugee camp. It wasn't a meritocracy that helped her attend college or vaulted her into Congress. Instead, it was the country that had failed to live up to its founding ideals, a place that had disappointed her and so many immigrants, refugees, and minorities like her." End quote. If anything, that's an understatement. Omar isn't disappointed in America. She's enraged by it. Virtually every public statement she makes accuses Americans of bigotry and racism. This is an immoral country, she says. She has undisguised contempt for the United States and for its people. Think about that for a minute. Our country rescued Ilhan Omar from the single worst place on earth. We didn't do it to get rich. In fact, it cost us money. We did it because we are kind people. How did Omar respond to the remarkable gift we gave her? She scolded us and called us names. She showered us with contempt. It's infuriating. But more than that, it's also ominous. The United States admits more immigrants than any country on earth, more than 1 million every year. The Democratic Party demands that we increase that number and admit far more. Okay, Americans like immigrants, but immigrants have got to like us back. That's the key. It's essential. Otherwise, the country falls apart. We made that point last night. We'll continue to make that point because it's true, and it's important to say it out loud, even if no one else is willing to. Needless to say, the left went berserk. They hate it when you say the true things. Ilhan Omar and her allies in Congress immediately demanded that this show be pulled off the air. They didn't rebut what we said, any of our points, or even acknowledge them. They just tried to silence us. That's how they operate. And of course, they called us racist. On one level, that's amusing, given how absurd the charge is. This show, more than any other show on television, has taken an aggressive position in favor of colorblind equality and against racism, particularly the casual racism of the modern left. We despise the current habit of judging people on the basis of their skin color. It's wrong. We say that virtually every night. Racist? No. were against racism, adamantly. Omar consistently puts her own race at the center of the conversation. But to us, it's irrelevant. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, for example, would, by the standards of identity politics, by Omar's standards, seem to have everything in common with Ilhan Omar. Like Omar, she was born in Somalia, moved to Kenya, and eventually came to this country. Unlike Omar, Ali loves and cares about the United States. She believes our country is superior to the country she came from, and she says that. For saying that, the left despises her. Omar's friend Linda Sarsour once tweeted that Ali deserves to be mutilated for her beliefs. So, two Somali immigrants, one among the most impressive people in America, the other among the least. It's not about race. But of course, Omar and her friends already know that. Nothing they say on the subject of race is sincere. It's all a hustle designed to get them what they want. Omar has made a career of denouncing anyone and anything in her way as racist. That would include virtually all of her political and personal opponents. It includes even inanimate objects like the proposed border wall. That's racist. So is the United States Congress. So is the entire state of North Dakota, she once tweeted. Omar may be from another country, but she learned young that crying racism pays. The bigger question is, who taught her that? She didn't arrive from a Kenyan refugee camp denouncing people as bigots for political gain. She wasn't always a professional victim. That's learned behavior. Unfortunately, she learned it here. So in some ways, the real villain in the Ilhan Omar story isn't Omar herself. It's a group of our fellow Americans. It's our cultural gatekeepers who stoke the resentment of new arrivals and turn them into grievance mongers like Ilhan Omar. The left did that to her and to us. Blame them first.